This episode is brought to you by the Mini 14. Pick it up, shoot people, and wonder why you've ever used anything else. This is HOTDROP, where we bring you premier PUBG analysis and the sweatiest drops. In this episode, we're talking about a new challenger in the Battle Royale genre. We're talking about Fortnite. Fortnite versus PUBG. And before I get into it, I wanted to mention if you're interested in other survival-based video games, check out Infection Podcast, and I'll give a link in the show notes. Infection is a weekly show on Twitch, and it covers a whole variety of games. So if you're looking to take a break from PUBG and looking for news, info, and hot takes on some popular games out right now, you can watch it live on Twitch on Tuesday nights, or catch it on iTunes or any other podcast app. I've mentioned before that Nick and Brian, who run that show, have been doing it for about 150 weeks straight, and they haven't missed a single episode. Infection was my inspiration for creating this show on Battlegrounds, so I want to thank them for that, and the multiple shoutouts they've given me in the past few weeks. They have without a doubt helped my viewership grow to where it is today. And speaking of viewership, I wanted to thank each and every one of you who have watched my videos, left comments, and subscribed to my channel. I've got to tell you, it is not easy to produce content on a regular schedule. There are times where I get a little bit down or a little bit disinterested in doing this, but once I see your guys' comments saying how much you like the show and appreciate what I'm doing, it really does re-energize me, and it keeps me rolling on this journey. I try not to compare myself to the other big-name YouTubers who can post a video and within minutes get thousands of views, and I'm very proud of my small following, and I wanted to say thank you guys. Thank you so much for the support you've shown so far. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button and leave your comments, and I read every single one of them, and they really do brighten my day. If you want to stay on top of any show updates, follow me on Twitter at HotDropPodcast. I would love to answer your questions on the show or answer any feedback you guys have, so please don't hesitate to reach out. So with that, let's get into it. If you've watched my show at all in the past couple weeks, you know that I usually do a segment on current players. You might have also seen in the past that I have a big board of bold predictions, and my number one prediction on that board was that we would hit 1 million players by the end of the year. This week, I was going to make another bold prediction and add it to the board saying that by the end of the year, we will have 2 million concurrent players. So I thought I was all gung-ho about this. This would be a nice, bold prediction that may or may not come true, but we're going to add it to the board and see what happens. That was my thought going into this episode. So I was researching the show and looking around at all of the stuff I want to cover, and I went to the Steam charts, and I looked at the all-time peak, and that just completely erased my bold prediction of 2 million, because right now we sit at an all-time peak of 1,984,278 players. So, I mean, there goes that. I thought it was a great prediction, but it's really going to come true in the next couple weeks, so we're going to up that to 2.5 million. I'm going to say that by January 1st, we're going to have 2.5 million concurrent players. And I really think we're getting up there. I think that 3 million is the absolute peak for this game. 2.5 might also be a really hard ask, but honestly, this game has been growing since day one, and it has not stopped. It hasn't even stuttered at all, really. It's been nonstop growth from March, whenever it was released, the end of March, all the way to today, which is October 9th. Here's an interesting visual comparison of the 3 most popular games on Steam: DOTA 2, Counter-Strike Go, and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. So traveling back in time, we go all the way back to July 2012 when these games came out, and we see that the growth was very slow over time. There was no big jump, really. All the way through 2015, 2016, the growth was pretty much steady. No new players were added on, and the games were kind of stagnant. I think there are a lot of reasons why these games stagnated. The biggest one for me personally, because I played a lot of Counter-Strike, was that the game just wasn't really evolving. It had sort of reached its maximum potential, I felt. Like the developers were adding a few things, tweaking things here and there, but these games are so well established at this point that there's really no massive introduction of new players because there's just nothing fresh and nothing exciting to really draw them in. Counter-Strike especially has such a high skill ceiling, and it's such a high learning curve that a lot of people would get turned off Like the one thing that a lot of new players would say is, why are my bullets not going where my crosshair is? And they couldn't really figure out the mechanic of the game and how it really works as far as firing your weapon and spray patterns and rotations and timings and all of the things that you need to know to be a professional, successful Counter-Strike player are difficult for the average new player to comprehend right off the bat. The fact that Counter-Strike had been on the market for so long and so many people have been playing it since they were, in my case, 12 years old, it's a little bit daunting to try to get into that game, and it's very difficult to be good at it if you only invest a handful of hours. So now fast forward to January of 2017. This is the point on the graph where Battlegrounds becomes a reality. And this, I think, might be a little bit off, but this is just how the graph represents the dates. So March is really when it was released, the end of March, and we can see that the growth started out pretty fast, actually. Like, a lot of people picked up this game right away. We hit 200,000 players pretty fast, and that's about the point where people thought, okay, this game might have something to it here. At that point, H1Z1 was getting around 100,000 players, and it was probably one of the higher viewed games on Twitch. I'm talking about King of the Kill, of course. And it was right up there in the top 5 on Twitch of the most viewed games. So that was very popular. Like, we knew Battle Royale had some legs to it. We knew people would enjoy watching and playing that game mode. But we had no company that came along and really did that game genre well. Like, we didn't have anyone yet who had mastered that genre. Like, there's a lot of problems with H1Z1, and a lot of people were trying that game out and then being driven away by the horrible, horrible developers. There were tons of promises that the H1Z1 team made that were never fulfilled. There was tons of bugs. There were broken game mechanics. There was just a lot of issues in that game, and me personally, that was the biggest turnoff. I really did enjoy the Battle Royale game mode, but I just wasn't feeling it with H1Z1. So now back to the graph. We see in July of 2017 this game exploding. The numbers went through the roof. There's a lot of reasons that I've described in the past for why PUBG is as successful as it is. This game being very accessible and easy to understand is probably the biggest. It's a game mode where you know exactly what to do to win, and there's a lot of different ways to get there. And if you're watching this game, it's the same thing. Like, you know what the objective is. It's not something like a Dota 2 where you just have no idea what's going on the screen if you're an average person who doesn't know the rules or doesn't know what the different heroes are. So this game explodes, and I love this visual. I love seeing that in this tiny amount of time, 6 months, this game has exploded and doubled the current player counts of the 2 biggest games on Steam. I think we need to give all the credit to Bluehole and all the credit to PlayerUnknown for finally realizing the game mode as it was intended to be played. I think that Bluehole has done an absolutely outstanding job in getting this game from concept to reality. They made this game accessible to a large variety of people by making it not so tactical and not so realistic, and just enough of an arcadey feel, but with still having a skill gap, a skill ceiling that makes this game challenging but able to be something that people could work at to get better at. I think there's just a lot of great things about this game, but on the flip side, there's a lot of problems with it. And I've mentioned these things before. Things like the frame rates being so low, the fact that you have to spend such a huge amount of money to get a computer that can run this game well, and just the fact that it's not optimized and there's a lot of broken things in and around the map. But when you just take this game at face value, like you get rid of those things, like you just think about how much fun you have playing this game, that's what brings people back to it. It's not about the issues with this barrel being bigger than the other barrels. It's not about the fact that there's a table in a building that looks like it's much bigger than the player. It's not about the fact that there's gaps in the map where people can fall through. You know, it's not about the wonky car physics of like just driving into a bump and all of a sudden you die and that's you've lost your progress. Like it's about this whole package. If you get rid of those problems, this game will be better, absolutely. But the problems that exist now are just not terrible enough that it's going to drive anyone away. You know, you have the people on Reddit saying, oh my God, this game is terrible. Bluehole's terrible. They don't communicate. They don't understand what it takes to make a good game. They're losing me. I have 2,000 hours in this game and it's horrible. And I'm just sick of these bugs. And what I once thought were funny, quirky bugs, like my car exploding when it hits a bump, is now something that I rage and I want to throw my computer out the window. Like, you have those people, and that's fine. Like, these people are passionate about the game because they love it. And yes, Bluehole has a long ways to go to get this game perfected. But as it is now, the package that it's wrapped up in is just so fun. And that's the key here. A game is made so you can have fun playing it. And that's what Bluehole has done so well. And that's what makes this game so popular. I think that one reason alone is the reason why this graph is the way it is. Like, the reason why this graph has absolutely exploded, and we now see unreal historical numbers from a computer game in early access. One of the things that the Infection podcast guys talked about in their last episode was how PUBG is sort of a trend right now. It's popular now at 1.5 million, 200 million players, but in a couple of months, that number is going to go down. It could take a year or so, but I agree that the reality is that this game is not going to stay at 2 million concurrent always. But one of the things that makes me look at PUBG's future differently is the word platform. If Bluehole hadn't said the words platform, I would say, yes, this is a trend, and a year from now, we might not even have 300,000 concurrent. If PlayerUnknown hadn't come out and said, we are going to make this game a platform, a mod platform where you can create something better than Battlegrounds if you put in the effort and time to modify it and create something new. If he hadn't said those words, I would say, yeah, this game is dead. It's dead in the water. It's a passing fad, it's a trend, and it's nothing more than that. But the fact that they came out and said, we want to support this game for years. We want this game to be something that 5 years from now looks completely different from what you play today. That is why this game is going to continue to be successful. And I don't think that we're going to get 60,000 plus players, new players, every week. That's just impossible to maintain. But I think in the next couple of years, this game is going to have a lot of the numbers that it currently has. Like, the vast majority that are playing this game today will be playing it in the next 2 or 3 years. I guarantee that. And that's because we're going to see some unreal modifications to this game. Things like a World War II mode, single player campaigns, even cross-platform play. They've talked about bigger game modes with more than 100 people. There's going to be massive modifications to this game that completely change how it's played. Imagine this for a second with me. You boot up PUBG, and you're thinking, what kind of game do I want to play today? You see a single-player campaign option. Let's find out what really happened on the island of Erangel, however the hell you pronounce that. Maybe you see multiplayer classic option. You think, cool, let's play some classic PUBG that I've grown to love over the past couple years. But maybe not. Let's try something new. Let's try this World War II modification, where it's a complete overhaul and everything is designed using World War II era weapons, vehicles, and combat. Or maybe I don't feel like playing World War II today. Let's go over to the Star Wars mod, where I can play with lightsabers and force powers, just like a Jedi Outcast type game. Or maybe I'm thinking more of a Western style, so let's play the Western mod, where I can ride a horse, shoot lever-action rifles, gamble at saloons, and it's maybe even a fully open-world multiplayer mod where you can be anything that you want to be in a Western setting. The possibilities really are endless with the Unreal Engine. PUBG is successful on its own 2 legs today, but the mods are what's going to keep this game alive for years. There's also another thing that will encourage PUBG to keep growing, and that is competition, which brings us to the topic of today's show. On September 26th, a game called Fortnite Battle Royale was released, and not just for PC. It's released for Xbox, PlayStation, and even Mac. Before I can talk about what Fortnite Battle Royale is, I have to talk about what Fortnite is. And Fortnite is a co-op sandbox survival game, and it's about exploration, scavenging items, crafting weapons, building fortified structures, and fighting waves of encroaching monsters. It's developed by Epic Games, which, if you'll remember, is actually the people who created the Unreal Engine. So the synopsis of the Battle Royale version is very similar to H1Z1 and also, of course, PUBG's Battle Royale game mode, where you parachute into the map, you have 100 players to, 99 players to kill, and you try to make it to be the last one standing. The Battle Royale version is just a different game mode on top of the Fortnite game. So it's sort of a spin-off, just like Just Survive was to H1Z1 King of the Kill. Same thing going on here. So we first had Fortnite come to the scene, and now we also have a Battle Royale spin-off mode of that game. I think that's important to note because it's not a direct competitor to PUBG in that it saw PUBG's success and directly tried to emulate it. I mean, it did, obviously, but at the same time, it wasn't built from the ground up to be a Battle Royale game. It was built to be a co-op zombie survival shooter with base building elements, and then they tacked on a Battle Royale game mode after the fact, and of course, after seeing how successful PUBG was. Elements of the full Fortnite game are in the Battle Royale version, such as the base building mechanics, and to me it seems completely out of place. It doesn't really seem like I would want to take the time to create a base in the middle of a shrinking circle, but more on this later. The first I heard of the Fortnite Battle Royale game mode was in the news, and it was not good news. Essentially, Epic Games released promotional materials for Fortnite Battle Royale and referenced PUBG in them. Like, they actually called out PUBG in their promotional materials by name, which is kind of a no-no in the marketing world. I think that was the biggest issue that the PUBG developers took with Epic Games. They said, quote, "We have also noticed that Epic Games references PUBG in the promotion of Fortnite to their community and in communications with the press. This was never discussed with us, and we don't feel that that is right. The PUBG community has and continues to provide evidence of many similarities as we contemplate further action." So this is the main argument that PUBG had against Epic Games. They also did say that they were concerned that Fortnite may be replicating the experience for which PUBG is known. But they said that in context of, they're referencing us in their promotional materials, and that's not cool. Later on, they clarified their statements a bit more and said, quote, "This is not about the Battle Royale game mode itself. There were other BR game modes earlier this year that were released, like Last Man Standing or GTA 5's Battle Royale game mode, and we never raised an issue about that. And I think it's great that there is more competition, and everyone should be able to create their own Battle Royale game mode. And it's not about the idea itself. It's about Epic Games, and that wasn't really clear in the press release." They say that Battle Royale is just about Last Man Standing. It's a simple game mode, and they're not claiming any kind of ownership over the game mode or the genre itself. So to me, Epic Games is going to make their Battle Royale game mode whether Bluehole likes it or not. Another issue that Bluehole raises is that Epic Games is going to create modifications to the Unreal Engine itself, and this is going to make their Battle Royale game mode run better. So Bluehole's concern is that they won't get those new Unreal Engine features, and they won't be able to use those for PUBG, or not allow them to use it for PUBG. It sounds like Bluehole didn't know that Fortnite Battle Royale was coming, and they want an open line of communication with Epic Games. So the issue here is less that they created a Battle Royale game mode, is that the people who created it are the same people that create the engine for PUBG. Bluehole pays a lot of royalties to Epic Games because they license their engine for PUBG. And they say that this was sort of a breach of trust kind of thing. They trusted them in a business relationship to provide technical support to them, and they're paying them royalties. And now, Epic Games comes around, flips around on them, and creates their own Battle Royale game mode where they might have features that they don't actually give to Bluehole. So that's the issue here. Like, I see that there can be possibly a problem with this. And people really took that first news story out of context, saying, oh, Bluehole only thinks that they own the Battle Royale game mode. Like, screw them. Like, who are they to say that? That's really not what the argument is. If you have any desire to read these articles, I'll post them in the show notes. I think it's sort of an interesting drama, not your typical gaming drama. And I think Bluehole is right to be concerned about this, but I think all of this happened very publicly, and it should have been just an email from Bluehole to Epic Games behind the scenes. We never should have heard about this argument in a news story. Like, this should all have been solved behind the scenes, and it shouldn't even have been an issue. It was just someone, a young company like Bluehole speaking a little bit too soon, I think, and potentially starting some drama where there shouldn't have been any. Despite all of this, it's clear that Fortnite is an extremely popular Battle Royale game mode. Epic Games claims that 7 million people have played their game, and I think the main reason is that it's because it's free to play. And it's also available on the PS4 and Xbox, which is something that PUBG cannot claim. I think that once Battlegrounds comes to the Xbox, there's going to be a massive influx of players. I know some people personally who have said they are waiting for the Xbox version in order to start playing. So this is a pretty highly anticipated launch, and I think a lot of players will be added on to our already very high, almost 2 million concurrent player count. Fortnite Battle Royale is a direct competitor to PUBG, but the truth is that these games are very different, despite sharing the core game mechanics. So first off, and most obvious, is we have the realism of PUBG, where they're trying to recreate a more realistic experience, versus the cartoony, animated, cel-shaded graphics of Fortnite. This is the most obvious difference between the two games, and I think it's very polarizing, personally. I've never really been a fan of these cartoony, more animated, bright, colorful games. I've always been more of a fan of more realistic-looking games, and I think this is an immediate turnoff for me. Obviously, I'm a bit skewed to liking PUBG more because this is the game I've played for a very long time and I'm doing a podcast on, but I think it's something that you immediately have a strong reaction to. Personally, I saw the game and I sort of dismissed it as being more of a casual, less intense, maybe even a less skillful type of game, just because of the cartoony look to it, which may not be fair, but that's just how I initially reacted to it. Besides the graphics, there's also a few huge differences between the game. First being the weapons. In general, the weapons feel very weak. The sound design isn't nearly as perfected as PUBG's is. And also, there's weapons like rocket launchers, which are sort of overpowered depending on the situation. They need to spend a little bit more time balancing the weapons to make them viable in all sorts of situations. There's no first-person mode, and you can't aim down sights, but you can if you have a weapon that has a scope on it, such as a sniper rifle. There's no vehicles, so everything is done on foot, but at the same time the map is smaller, so the vehicles aren't seen as quite a necessity. The matches are faster, and again, this is due in part to the smaller map, whereas PUBG is a little bit more tactical, and the positioning is more important. You can't really hide in Fortnite, which is one of the biggest things I noticed. There's no way to go prone, and there's no grass to hide in on the side of a hill. You stand out more, and you obviously can't hide as easily. Fortnite has destructible environments, which is cool. You can actually shoot down trees. And you also have the base building system that made its way over from the full version of Fortnite. Weapons have rarity levels, which is different compared to PUBG, whereas if you have a common weapon, this weapon is not going to be nearly as good as a legendary weapon. The rarer the gun, the better it is. And also the weapons have tracer rounds. And finally, there's more character customization in PUBG. There's none in Fortnite at this time. So I'm really going to break down this differences between these two games in part 2 of this episode. I want to talk to Cody, aka Lord Beardface, who has played this game and can give us more of an insider, beginner perspective on Fortnite. I haven't had time to play this game myself, so what I'm really saying is based off of reviews that I've seen and gameplay footage that I've watched. So I can't really be a very good, unbiased reporter on this game because I haven't played it yet. So I'm going to bring in Cody next episode, and we're going to break down his thoughts on this game. And hopefully I'll have a little bit of time to play it myself so I can add to the conversation. But he's prepped me a little bit on what he's going to talk about, and I think he has some really great insights on this game, and I can't wait to share them with you guys. So that is it for this episode. I know it sounds like a pretty quick episode, but I just wanted to talk about the initial reactions to this game that I had. And then next week, we'll break it down and talk about the finer details and discuss how PUBG relates to Fortnite. We'll break down all of the points that I just discussed and more coming up next week. Until then, I'll see you in game.